Here's what I think about what you did. You'd like to fire off, as you've done so far in this debate, about your fury at how disgusting Republicans are, how inhumane they are, how they never have any empathy, blah, 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 blah. And then you yourself actually are exactly the person that you're describing. You are inhuman. You are somebody who seems almost gleeful that a young firefighter with a family, with a wife and children, who he was protecting as he was shot dead, that he deserved what was coming to him because he went to a President Trump rally, a man who was president of the United States until recently for 4 years and maybe again. You sound almost gleeful, Destin, and I'm sorry, that makes you, frankly, despicable. But here's my problem, Destiny, with your whole position on this, right? Is that you don't actually have anything inside you that you want the other side to have. You don't have any of the empathy. You don't have any sympathy. You don't care that someone tried to assassinate Donald Trump. You don't care that a young fireman with a family was killed in the process. You don't actually, you are not the person you want these other people to be. And all you do is play whataboutery with every question I give you. Do you condemn the shooter shooting Donald Trump?
No.
You called your opponent an existential threat. On a call a week ago, you said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. There's some dispute about the context, but I think you appreciate that
I didn't say crosshairs. I was talking about focus on. Look, the truth of the matter was, what I guess I was talking about at the time was there was very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term is bullseye.
It was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him. Focus on what he's doing.
So as a hunter, I gotta say, the comment putting someone in a bullseye is actually worse in my opinion than saying putting someone in the crosshairs. It's a target. A person could literally put the crosshairs on something just to watch it, like binoculars. I've done it many times with deer. Joe Biden's lame excuse of saying, I said bullseye, I didn't say crosshairs. That is nonsense. He shouldn't have used either of those. The big conversation right now is that people need to tone the rhetoric down, right? Well, I'm a fan of leading by example, and in this video, you're gonna see that Destiny, the streamer, yeah, he's back. He is not one to lead by example. Now, you wanna say that Donald Trump said this or that? Well, give me some examples of what he said. You'll see in this video that Piers Morgan says that Donald Trump has this kind of rhetoric too that he spouted, but I disagree. I would like for him to give an example of what kind of rhetoric, what Trump actually said that is even remotely comparable to calling people some of the worst things that you can on earth right now. Because I would argue that anytime people on the right or MAGA side say anything, it is in defense of something that the left has called them or described them as or whatever, or they're saying about Trump, and then they're forced to defend Trump for the sake of the truth. But it's like, hey, look, that's actually false. Here's some examples, and then they want to call you another name. So it's lose-lose for a person that wants to support Trump, that believes that this country is the greatest place on earth, and you're going to see Destiny here claim that he loves this country, but he doesn't. He hates half of the people in this country. He hates the 80 million people that voted for Trump and more that's going to vote for Trump in this coming election. And then he deflects and blames it on those same people that is the reason why he doesn't like them. Well, hey, look, I can't get with you on this program. I can't show you the grace that I'm accustomed to showing to people. I can't turn the other cheek anymore. The ruthless attacks from the left have been an onslaught since 2016. And now, in 2024, they want to say, die down the rhetoric. The rhetoric is what led to this and all this other stuff. And it's like, fine, lead by example. You guys calm it down. You guys actually start labeling Trump and looking at Trump as the person that he actually is. He's a businessman. He's not a politician. And he put everything on the line, including his life. He's lost billions of dollars when he, in reality, could just be sitting on a golf course right now raking it in. He's not this wannabe dictator. He's not chasing power. He's doing something because he feels obligated to, because nobody else in the country has the balls to stand up to these politicians. Nobody else in the country has the clout to stand up to these politicians. And you've seen that they don't like it, and they fight back using the DOJ. First, they tried to impeach him. Then they tried to get him locked up with all these bullcrap felonies. They compounded misdemeanors that were beyond the statute of limitations, somehow came up with 34 felonies, which he was actually supposed to be sentenced by now, but that has been postponed. The other attack on him, where he kept his own classified files, yeah, that just got thrown out. And the biggest part of Fani Willis's RICO case, the phone call where they say that Trump claimed, dig up these extra votes, when the reality is he was saying, find me the votes, just like they found the votes for Biden, the votes that actually existed. That's all he was saying. There was multiple lawyers. There was multiple, authority figures on that same phone call. Nobody seemed to have a problem with it besides the mainstream media, the lefty serving mainstream media. And then they found an idiot in Fani Willis that was actually dumb enough to bring the charges. Yeah, that case is going to go away too, because that phone call has been thrown out by the judge. That was the big linchpin in that case, in my opinion. That's the big complaint that everybody has. And it's irrelevant now to the case. And now the rhetoric coming from the left for the last 8 years caused a 20-year-old man who has heard nothing but Donald Trump is the enemy since he was 12 years old, led him to climb up on a roof and take a shot at Donald Trump and kill innocent bystanders in the process. And now they want to tell us to stop the rhetoric. Well, like I said in my past videos, you guys stop with the attacks, you guys stop with the lies, and we won't be forced to defend Donald Trump, and we won't be forced to defend ourselves. You've backed people into a corner to the point where there's nowhere else to go besides come out fighting. Politically, I'm not talking about physically, because the people on my side are all about forgiveness, turning the other cheek, and winning in the ballot box. They're not about physical violence. But I know I've rambled long enough, and you guys are here to see Destiny get crushed in this video, and he's about to, but you got to be ready. You got to prepare yourself, because this guy's opinion, the things that he says, are shocking. So anyways, you've been warned. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Nobody thought Biden was talking about archery when he used the word bullseye, and he knows it. The presidential move would have been to say that everyone on all sides needs to dial down their incendiary rhetoric. And I think, to be completely fair, I believe Donald Trump has spouted a lot of very ill-advised and occasionally very dangerous rhetoric. And I want both sides to dial it down, because actually where this leads to is where it's led to. Let me bring in Destiny. On Saturday evening, hours after the shooting, you said, let me clarify, when I say conflicted, what I mean is I lean towards seeing it as a natural extension of the thing Trump and the MAGA kids support. So I don't think I have much sympathy about the attempt enough to chastise people celebrating it. You couldn't find it in your heart to chastise people for celebrating the near assassination of a man who was president of the United States, and maybe again?
Absolutely not. Conservatives have completely bled that well dry. And the idea that they, after engaging in the most divisive and most extreme rhetoric that this country has seen in recent history, that they would come on and beg for sympathy, that it's escalated into some kind of violent confrontation, is absolutely insane. Even the idea right now of saying, well, if you call somebody a Nazi for so long, it's, what do you expect people to do? I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh call Obama a communist every single day he was on the radio. You've got conservatives that talk about how the mRNA vaccines were ways to sneak microchips into us. You've got COVID lockdowns that were done because the government was trying to take all your freedom away. They won't acknowledge anything that happened on January 6th. They say that the election was stolen and that your country is being taken from you. I don't think anybody should be killed. I don't think anybody should go out and kill anybody. But when you engage in this type of rhetoric,
but Destiny, you say you don't want anybody killed, and yet you say, I don't think I have much sympathy about the attempt to chastise people celebrating it. People celebrating the near assassination of Donald Trump. If you can't find it in you to chastise people who do that, aren't you just as despicable as the people you've just spent the last 2 minutes haranguing?
No, because they've led the way. This is the environment that they've created.
So you think behaving like the people you think are despicable is the correct course of action?
Not about behaving like the people who are despicable would be leading that type of rhetoric. It would be denying every single bad thing. How many times as a liberal have you been on a show, not you in general, but like a liberal been on a show and you've been forced to disavow all of the BLM riots, disavow all of the violence and blah, blah, blah. And then you talk to conservatives about it.
January 6th,
that was
that's
a false
good.
flag.
Yeah.
January 6th. Oh, like conservatives disavow January 6th?
Let me step in there for a second and just say, if you agree with Destiny and his opinion about the Capitol on January 6th, I challenge you to go back and look at all the video that's been released since that day. You will realize that the majority of the people were not fighting with police. A lot of them were let in. A lot of them were escorted around, and the amount of damage was minimal. There was not one fire set that day. And if you really are concerned about the attack on democracy or whatever you want to call it, I challenge you to look into what happened at the White House on May 29th, I believe the date is, where they set multiple fires outside of the White House. They injured over 100 police, and they set a fire to the church across the street from the White House, and it caused the president to take cover in a bunker for security. Then compare those apples to apples.
Wait. First off, there's an entire cultural machine that has lied. There is an entire
we just saw it in real time. That's it.
What?
That's why conservatives deserve absolutely zero sympathy for anything that happens as a result of their rhetoric. That's it. It's so easy. Like, it's so simple.
Okay, but
I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about, but I would say this is the type of person that the internet has broke their brain, thus leaving them with very little empathy for their co-human. I mean, a good, decent father is now dead because of this. He's had his brains blown out because he was defending his wife and daughter. I would hope that you have a little empathy for that.
Let me jump in there because we have a clip of what Destiny has said about that very thing. Let's listen to this.
Fuck it. Fuck the dude, the firefighter guy. Fuck Trump. Fuck the people that support him. I just want you to know, okay? Just in case you're confused or it seems like I'm, whatever. If one of you were in the crowd and you're a conservative fan of mine and you end up, getting blown away or whatever the fuck, I'm making fun of you the next day on Twitter. I am 100%.
I mean, I got to say, I just found that repulsive, Destiny. Yeah,
I wish that there is no room. There is no room for the hand wringing, and I will not participate in this anymore.
Oh, it's not hand wringing.
The hand wringing. No,
it
absolutely is.
No, it's just that you are positioning yourself.
So well.
No, but Destiny, let me explain to you.
Where conservatives can say anything.
No, I'm not a conservative.
They can have any conspiracy theory.
I'm not a conservative.
They can have any plot. They can do anything, and then liberals are supposed to sit here and be like, "Oh my God, it's so tragic."
No, Destiny,
absolutely not.
Let me explain.
Absolutely.
Let me explain my position because I'm not a conservative. I'm not on either side in your race, right? Here's what I think about what you did. You'd like to fire off, as you've done so far in this debate, about your fury at how disgusting Republicans are, how inhumane they are, how they never have any empathy, blah, 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 blah. And then you yourself actually are exactly the person that you're describing. You are inhuman. You are somebody who seems almost gleeful that a young firefighter with a family, with a wife and children, who he was protecting as he was shot dead, that he deserved what was coming to him because he went to a President Trump rally, a man who was president of the United States until recently for 4 years and maybe again. You sound almost gleeful, Destin, and I'm sorry, that makes you, frankly, despicable.
I don't think I'm gleeful about anything. I don't think anybody should die. I don't think anybody deserves to die. But you want to talk about gleeful? Look at the conservative response to Pelosi's husband.
No. Look at the mainstream media's response, what happened to Paul Pelosi. They came out and without any verification said that it was a MAGA Trump supporter that broke into the house and tried to kill him.
They broke in.
I can answer that.
Mainstream media figures
I can answer that.
I don't care.
I can answer that.
With all due respect, I don't care what your answer is.
Let me answer that.
The reality is that conservatives have been turning the temperature up on the rhetoric. They have been making fun of these types of events for years, and now when something happens to them, now they're looking for sympathy from the liberal side. Absolutely not. It's insane. It's unhinged that you can conduct yourself in such a manner and expect people to feel sorry when things happen.
Why should anybody on the right listen to a word of your hectoring and lecturing about how they should behave? And by the way, for the record, the mockery of Nancy Pelosi's husband when he was attacked by an intruder with a hammer was also despicable, right? I can see despicable behavior on all sides, and I'm happy to call it out when I see it. You, however, want to present yourself as this great kind of standard bearer of decency who sees outrageous behavior on the right time and again and is incensed by this disgusting, inhumane behavior. And yet time and again, since the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, you have displayed exactly the same kind of inhumane behavior. Fuck him about a fireman who is killed because he attends a rally of a guy he wants to vote for.
My issue with the MAGA kids is not that they are not empathetic. My issue is that they support a president that led an insurrection against the United States. I'm not here to tone police over their empathy.
80 million people voted for Donald Trump last time round.
That's great. 80 million people voted for a guy that tried to insurrect the government, and it looks like they might try to do it again. I mean, like, I don't know what you want me to say. These are the facts on the ground. The idea that
you don't like attacks on democracy. So presumably you would unreservedly condemn the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, because that's one of the most egregious attacks on American democracy in modern times. Presumably, you will take this opportunity, given you are so determined to protect the integrity of democracy, you would find it absolutely outrageous that someone has tried to assassinate a president, right?
If the other conservatives on this show want to say that it was absolutely outrageous
that
Donald Trump attempted to coup the government, then maybe I would. Yeah, no, I'm not going to get on my knees and beg for forgiveness or show sympathy to conservatives.
I'm not asking for that. I'm asking you to condemn what happened as an egregious attack on democracy. Can you do that?
No, I won't. No, I won't.
You can't do that. You see, so why the hell, frankly, Destiny,
absolutely not.
Why the hell should we listen to a word you have to say about...
Why do you think conservatives haven't been listening to a word that liberals have said about anything for 8 years?
Right,
what do you think is going to change?
They?
You think
that
if liberals come out now and they go, oh my God, this was so horrible,
but here's
you think they're going to go, wow, that is true.
Charlie, I'll bring you in at the end of this, I promise you, and you'll get a good chance to respond. But here's my problem, Destiny, with your whole position on this, right? Is that you don't actually have anything inside you that you want the other side to have. You don't have any of the empathy. You don't have any sympathy. You don't care that someone tried to assassinate Donald Trump. You don't care that a young fireman with a family was killed in the process. You don't actually. You are not the person you want these other people to be. And all you do is play whataboutery with every question I give you. What percentage could it be that the other side, as we've just heard from Dave Rubin, has spent 8 years calling Donald Trump the new Adolf Hitler, a person who was responsible for the murder of 12 million people, including 6 million Jewish people in a Holocaust? Last time I checked, Donald Trump hasn't murdered 12 million people. So much as you would like him to be the new Hitler, he's not. But again, to an impressionable young deranged mind who has easy access to guns, that can be easily interpreted as an existential threat, said President Biden. Somebody that needs to be put in the bullseye, said Biden.
Okay,
only last week. And guess what? Guess what? Somebody then comes forward and tries to kill the existential threat.
Who was engaged in more divisive rhetoric over the 8 years? If you had to guess, if you had to assign a rough percentage,
again you're playing whataboutery. Again you're deflecting.
It's not whataboutery.
Just as Joe Biden did last night. Just as Joe Biden did with Lester Holt on NBC last night. Every time he was asked, "Have you done any soul searching about your own rhetoric, your own ill-advised use of language?" He deflected it back to attacks on Trump. And you're doing exactly the same thing with Republicans.
And I will do the exact same thing.
You say Republicans are... You say that they are lacking in empathy.
When Donald Trump was saying Second Amendment people could maybe do something about Hillary Clinton. Like, no, it's absolutely deranged. The double standard that's being asked here is insane. And you heard both of them say it earlier. How much did Donald Trump's rhetoric contribute to the current environment? Oh, not much at all. Like, no, yeah, I'm not going to say anything to these people. Of course not.
You see, Destiny,
seem oddly unversed in any of the current events that have happened over the last couple of years. First off, politics is downstream from culture, right? And what has happened to our culture in the last 8 years? What has happened to our culture is that the mainstream media has lied about everything, always to the detriment of right-leaning people, whether it is the Russia hoax or COVID or Brett Kavanaugh's a serial rapist or the Covington kids are racist or Jesse Smollett was hoaxed, was lynched, or whether it was very fine people on both sides. Every single lie always goes against right-leaning people. So they are slightly annoyed and distrustful of people like you and other people in mainstream media who lie about literally everything. So perhaps
literally everything, like biolabs and Nazis in Ukraine, or like mRNA vaccines that are causing 20% excess deaths. There it is. Yeah, or the fact that COVID lockdowns were going to go on forever and it was just an authoritarian abuse of power. Or, yeah, of course. Like, come on, dude. Conservatives are masters of misinformation, and it's happening right here.
All right, Charlie, thank you for being so patient. Things have obviously got quite heated quite quickly. Let me give you your chance now to have your say after what you've been hearing from Destiny.
Yeah, well, first of all, Destiny represents to me a certain subsect of the left, I won't call it everybody, who likes to bully others into saying exactly what they want to hear. And if they don't say it, then you all of a sudden are the problem. And they handle it exactly like he's been handling it on the show. It's like a child throwing a temper tantrum. You can't get a word in edgewise. They just kick and scream and yell until you ultimately say, I've had enough, just say what you want to say and back down. And that's exactly what we see a lot of times from people on the left. And it infuriates me, because just like we saw on Saturday with the near assassination of Donald Trump, which that is exactly what it was. It was an assassination attempt, yet we have, Dave, like you mentioned, all of the mainstream media putting out egregious headlines such as from CNN, Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startles former president and crowd, which completely mistells what actually happened.
Accurate. Here it is. This is the conservative. This is the game
It is,
right now.
it is not
right
accurate.
In front of us. It's the lies right now. You know, Fox News ran that same type of
first
headline,
of all,
right?
we are allowed
right?
in this country to ask questions. There was a lot of things that were very off on Saturday,
And other
from the
people are
way
allowed
that
to
the
call you
Secret
an idiot
Service
for it.
handled.
So, you know, I love this country. God bless, I guess. Yeah.
You can.
It's so funny that she said that he responds like a child, and then 5 seconds later he starts responding like a child, and then he chugs more Red Bull, and obviously the dude is hyped up on something. We'll just call it too many Red Bulls, but yikes.
See, there you go. He immediately resorts
I know, yeah,
to,
here
and
we
we're
go.
allowed
Yes.
to call you
Yeah,
an
here we
idiot.
go.
And that is
Quoting a
exactly the
breaking news
childish
headline as
demeanor
evidence.
that I'm
let me
speaking
jump
about.
in. To be
Over the
clear,
last 8 years,
Destiny,
here we are, yeah.
if it was close members of your family or close friends who had gone to that Donald Trump rally and who'd lost their lives, one did and two are critically wounded, if they had died there, you would lose no sleep over that. Is that your position?
No, of course I would be sad. It would be tragic, of course. And the closer they are to you, the more sad it would be. The same way that if you had a child that, you know, tried to rob a store and the child got killed by the police, that would also be tragic and sad.
So you wouldn't think,
but I mean, like,
you wouldn't think
at the end
fuck
of the day,
them because they're your family then? You'd have a different rule for your own loved ones.
Would I feel more upset if a person very close to me died rather than a person farther away died? Yeah, I think the answer there is yes.
Yeah, but you
it
weren't
doesn't
just
change
not, you
materially
weren't just,
anything.
just to be clear, you weren't just not upset by the death of that firefighter who'd given great service as a firefighter to his country. You were gleeful and you said, fuck him. Fuck him.
I'm not. It's
Would
not
you
about
say
being gleeful.
fuck
It's about
them
saying
if it was
it's
your
about
family and
it's
friends?
because it was a Trump supporter.
I would say that if they go to a rally like this and they support an insurrectionist president and something happens to them, I would feel sad on a personal level because they're my parents. But again, I learned from them more than anyone else. I grew up in Nebraska. You learn that if you mess around and if you do dumb stuff, that there are going to be consequences.
And would you think? And would you think? All right. And would you be happy to say, you know what? Fuck them. About your own parents.
His rhetoric is far more dangerous than I've ever heard anything that Donald Trump said. What he's saying right there.
Yeah.
He is saying you should have no empathy or sympathy for your fellow human. You know,
agree.
we can all disagree. We can disagree about politics, of course. We can even disagree about how the media frames things and everything else. But he's basically saying show up to a rally and get killed. And that is absolutely psychotic. I'm sorry. And, you know, the other part of this that's strange when people are calling for unity right now is if this had happened to Joe Biden, if Joe Biden had been shot at and had part of his ear blown off, the very people calling for unity right now would be calling for the rest of us to be put in jail. So there's a strange asymmetry there as well.
And I would ask this.
The strange asymmetry was Biden trying to make a phone call to the wife of the killed firefighter and her rejecting the call and Donald Trump not even reaching out, okay? That's the asymmetry. When you talk about it's just politics, this is the cancerous brain rot that conservatives have fooled everybody into thinking.
And I want to ask you, Destiny, about Elon Musk, who is responded to one X user who was calling for him to demonetize you on the X platform. And he said, you're right, this is not appropriate content for advertisers because of the offensive tweets you were aiming at Trump supporters. What is your response to Elon Musk?
The same response as it always has been. Elon Musk is a thinly veiled, I would say, like anti-woke, anti-SJW, basically right-wing supporting guy. And if you say things that they don't like, of course they'll demonetize you, they'll cancel you. Conservatives are some of the least principled people in the universe when it comes to freedom of speech. As soon as they have any power to demonetize or spam report somebody's, sponsors or anything like that, of course conservatives will jump onto it.
Only when Bud Light starts marketing beer to minors.
My account also was demonetized, I think in like 12 hours. Thank you very much, Elon Musk.
Again, here's what I think we're all struck by. Your position seems to be that anyone from Donald Trump to his supporters who represents their thinking, their ideology, their political views, that if they are killed by an assassin at a rally, then they deserve what's coming to them. And in your words, fuck them. I mean, do you not understand that to most decent Americans and to decent people around the world, that is incredibly offensive and makes you look like a two-faced hypocrite, somebody who wants the other side to behave to a certain level of decency, but is himself incapable of displaying it.
The conservatives don't have it in them to have that level of decency.
So why don't you rise to a higher bar? Why don't you yourself show them the promised land destiny? Show them the way they should be behaving.
Have been doing it for 8 years. There's nothing to be gained there. So instead, we'll just have a laugh instead. When you're asking for this type of decency, you're saying like they did for Pelosi's husband, like they did for BLM people, like they did for the endless. He didn't die, but he got the crap beat out of him with a hammer, and they made jokes about his gay lover.
The jokes were disgusting. Why can't you say the same thing about the people making mockery of Trump? Why do you join the mob?
It's not just the jokes. It's the underlying substantive analysis as well. It's the lack of responsibility for January 6th. It's the lack of responsibility for the Gretchen plot. It's the lack of accountability for all the comments made about BLM protesters, George Floyd, for all of these.
But by your yardstick, what the Republicans should do in response is simply say, fuck all of them. Fuck them all. Who cares?
Piers, that's what you're not understanding. Piers, listen to me. This is what you're not understanding. You keep bringing this up to me, like, well, Destiny, if you act like this, aren't conservatives just going to do? And then you say a thing, but they've done this for 8 years.
Right. So the other side is horrendous. Therefore, I'm going to be even more horrendous. It's so unprincipled.
The horrendous part about the conservatives isn't just the rhetoric; it's the underlying factual denial of reality. That's the huge issue. That's the big bad part.
Let me bring Charlie back to respond to that. Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the opposite. I think that, Destiny, you are completely fueled solely off of emotion, whereas I think that, I'll say conservatives, even though I think that it spans past conservatives, when they look at the facts of the summer of BLM, the BLM movement as a whole, January 6th, this assassination attempt, when you look at the facts, things unfold before your eyes, and they reveal themselves to be actually what they are. There's a lot of evidence that has come forth since all of these events in the past have occurred. And they have shown that exactly what conservatives were saying were absolutely correct. Just like the assassination attempt on Saturday, we look at what went wrong. We look at not only was this one rooftop unguarded, but how did the gunman know that the rooftop was unguarded? Why was it that local law enforcement alerted the Secret Service moments before shots were fired?
There it is. There is actually a very good question. Destiny, one last question for you. Are you pleased that Donald Trump got shot?
Am I pleased? No, absolutely not.
What is your emotion to the shooting?
My emotion is emotionally what? In terms of his personal health, is absolute indifference.
No. Do you condemn the shooter shooting Donald Trump?
No. Not here, not on this program, not in front of these people. Absolutely
You do not condemn a deranged shooter shooting Donald Trump.
You are truly just a child. This is not.
Actually,
this is not a competition.
You know what,
We're
Charlie?
just trying to be decent human
You know what,
beings.
Charlie? It's not actually the behaviour of a child. It's the behaviour of somebody who's completely lost his moral compass and any sense of decency. I would say this to you, Destiny. Lester Holt asked Joe Biden last night, has he had any soul searching? Right? I think after this debate, you may want to just go away quietly and think about some of the answers you've given. And think about the double standard of demanding a certain pattern of behaviour from others that you do not sign up to. And you may or may not take my advice. You may or may not take my advice. I'm just saying, on reflection, you might conclude that the best way to persuade other people to behave in a better way is not to behave in an utterly degrading way yourself.
So that was chaotic, intense, a bit long, but certainly worth the watch. What are your thoughts on this Twitch streamer, Destiny? And who do you think won this debate? With that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.